The U.S. is expected to give Russia written answers to its security demands by next week. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made the announcement after his meeting in Geneva with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The pair discussed the ongoing standoff over Ukraine. Secretary Blinken called today's talks, quote, frank and substantive. He also warned of massive consequences should Moscow invade Ukraine. Blinken said the U.S. and its allies will address Russia's concerns, but the Kremlin must also do the same.
I expressed again to Minister Lavrov that on the security concerns that Russia has raised in recent weeks, the United States and our European allies and partners are prepared to pursue possible means of addressing them in a spirit of reciprocity, which means, simply put, that Russia must also address our concerns.
Joining us now with more from Geneva, Switzerland, is CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini. Hi, Christina. So, as we mentioned, the Secretary of State called today's meeting frank and substantive. He also expects reciprocity from Russia for these negotiations. What did Russia seem to take away from today's meeting?
Well, there were no major breakthroughs and none were expected. Russia did actually get a bit of a concession out of the U.S. They're going to get a written response to this long list of demands that Russia put out weeks ago. Secretary Blinken said he's going to go back to Washington, consult with President Biden, and he thinks they could have a prepared written response for the Russians within the next week or so. Now, Russian Foreign Minister was asked if he will be sharing those responses publicly. He said he'd have to check with Secretary Blinken and the State Department. But one of those Russian demands is that Ukraine, a former Soviet nation, be forbidden from ever joining NATO. That's something the U.S. has called a non-starter. So while saying the U.S. would be responding to Russia's demands, the Secretary was also very explicit in saying that it will be also laying out its concerns and some things that it wants to see from Russia. So talks are progressing. Both sides agree that they should keep the discussions going, but we'll have to see what this, passing diplomatic notes back and forth, if it leads to anything substantive in the next couple of weeks.
And Christina, super reporter that you were able to get a comment in English from Russia's deputy foreign minister as he tried to avoid American reporters. Tell us a little bit about that and what his response was.
I'm not so sure it's so much a journalism school as just a skill as much as me being very, very annoying. What happened in the video that you're seeing is the Russian deputy foreign minister was speaking to the Russian press, and some of my American colleagues tried to ask him some questions. In order to avoid us, he ducked under a staircase, not realizing the only way to come out was through the coat rack. And what I asked him was, why is Russia intimidated by Ukraine? Why does Russia fear Ukraine? Because the Russian position this entire time has been that its moves, all these troops they're deploying, all this military hardware that's going towards Ukraine's eastern border is defensive. Russia says that it is under threat from Ukraine, that it is under threat from NATO, and that it's doing this to defend itself. So State Department officials in the last couple of weeks have kind of questioned that and said, look, Russia has, one of the biggest nuclear arsenals in the world. They have a huge standing army. How could they possibly be threatened by Ukraine? And that was essentially what I asked him, and he said Russia is afraid of no one, not even the United States.
All right. Good point there. All right. So we do know that Russia is expecting, as we've been discussing, a written response now from the U.S. responding to its demands. But aside from that, what is the next step in these negotiations?
We'll have to see. We'll have to see how long it takes for the State Department. Diplomats like to dot their I's and cross their T's, and 18,000 people have to approve of any kind of language. He's got to consult with the White House. They've got to get on board. They have to talk to NATO allies. They have to talk to European allies, because one of the consequences of President Biden's speech earlier this week, where he disclosed that the allies were not all on the same page about sanctions, which was directly in opposition to the messaging we've been hearing from the State Department, is the State Department now feels an extra impetus to go and make sure the allies are on board and everybody is on the same page before it responds to Russia. So they're going to take this back. They're going to come up with their written responses. They're going to send them to the Russians. And both men said that they want to continue to talk. Today's talks, as you mentioned, were frank and productive, and they're going to keep speaking. But, Russia at the moment isn't showing signs of bringing any of those troops off the border with Ukraine. NATO isn't going to give in on allowing Russia to dictate who and who cannot join the alliance. So we're moving forward, but essentially moving forward either very incrementally or kind of parallel to where we were before. But for the moment, they're still talking and we're still holding, so it's better than nothing.
All right, Christina Ruffini in Geneva, thank you so much.